Hi!
Welcome back to Talking Shoppe
with Deming-Rivers Social Club. I'm Essence.
I'm Emily. Welcome to episode 6.
Yes, we're officially over the hill. Our goal, if you're new or whatever, was to get to 8 because most podcasts stop before 8 episodes. Or is that right?
Most podcasts stop after 7. So make it to 8.
Then we're thriving. Okay, so if you're new here, we start every episode with a segment that I still fumble over the name. I don't know why.
We have our work wife, our work overlord, and our work nemesis.
So you get 3 people, fictional or real, but usually fictional.
Once we get like 20 episodes in, we might start throwing real people in there.
I think it's your turn to go first.
I feel like I always end up going first.
No, I think I went first last time.
Okay. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Heather Gay.
First and foremost, when is it coming back?
It should be soon, hopefully.
It's been soon for 3 years.
I have to look. Heather Gay.
Okay.
Meredith Marks. Angie K.
What is the work?
You can pick. You are one of the Real Housewives. You've joined the cast.
But then how would they be my bosses?
Because there's always a queen bee.
Okay, whatever. So if I'm looking for my queen bee as my work overlord, then I would pick Heather.
Okay.
I feel like she's funny and kind of reasonable for the most part. She makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Angie would be my work wife.
It's a good
because
choice.
We watched her on the housewife wife swap situation, and I liked how she blended in. And Meredith is the nemesis because if you've seen the show, you know why.
Fair.
Okay, that was a good one.
That was fast.
Yeah, it was straightforward.
Automatic.
Yeah. Okay, so since I've been listening to and watching the music video for Can You Feel the Love Tonight from Lion King, it's bringing me nostalgia and helping me go to sleep. But I'm going to say Timon, Pumbaa, Zazu.
Oh, okay. Immediate nemesis, Zazu.
Why?
Irritating.
Yeah, he is.
Because why? Snitch. That's a nemesis right there.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
I do feel out of the trio, though, nothing else is getting done if we don't have Zazu. He keeps everyone on task.
Well, but I'm also a factor, too.
Yeah, that's true.
And I possess executive
You said,
functioning.
I'm going to be the boss now. I'm the captain now.
Just restructuring the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'd be a more effective leader.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Overlord. I feel like I'm going to put Timon in the work wife category because I want us to be on equal footing in the hierarchy. I feel like he'd get a big head if he was my boss.
Interesting.
And then Pumbaa, overlord, because I feel like he's just here to have a good time.
Yeah. I don't know that I would want to work for Pumbaa, but again, depends on what you're doing.
Quite honestly, I think Pumbaa would forget that he was my boss.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you need. Somebody to chill out. Okay, so interested to hear what you guys think. Do you agree, disagree, whatever? Tell us. Okay. So, what's new in our life?
Well, so we want to continue the theme of Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
We think it's important. We spent a whole episode last week talking about how we think it needs to be revamped.
Yeah, so we should probably do that.
So here we are revamping it. And I went back through the transcript and I found the words that we had pulled when we were talking about what we think could capture the depth of what we want May to be that is not awareness. And we came up with assessment, education, reflection, exploration, connection, and advocacy. And I was thinking about the connection piece because that is something that I think gets neglected in the broader picture of things, or it's an assumption that people are connected or people have community.
Yeah.
I think it is something worth talking a little bit more about how our community. I know we had somebody in our first YouTube video comment asking about building community.
Okay. So we had somebody, Gail, comment on our video, and what did they say?
They said, "Hi, my name is Gail. I completely found y'all randomly searching for queer-friendly psychologists in Florida."
Yeah,
that's us. I love the vibes, and we'll definitely watch the rest of the podcast. Thanks, Gail. Y'all have a lot of friends in nonprofits and similar jobs. I was wondering if you know a good way to get involved in those things. I'm only 21, fresh out of college, and I just don't know if I feel very fulfilled in the career I went to school for.
I love her.
A lot of people feel that way.
Them. Sorry, Gail, we don't know your pronouns.
We assume gender neutral until proven otherwise. I just really want to make an impact in people's lives no matter how small. I would love to do volunteer work, but I don't even know where to get started with anything like that. Great episode idea, Gail.
Yeah. We'll have to do we'll do some research. That might be one to have a guest.
We will get a guest, and we will talk more about how to navigate the nonprofit world. They also said, also just wondering, how do y'all navigate living in such a red state as a lesbian couple? I come from Texas, so it feels normal to me existing in a hostile place like this, but I moved here with my girlfriend from Illinois, who just notices a lot more nasty looks and stuff like that than I do. It's hard to imagine us staying here long term, but how would you recommend finding comfortable queer spaces here for two nerds who don't really do bars and clubs? Thank you for sharing a bit of yourselves. It's really comforting to see successful lesbians out here being amazing. Hope you have a lovely day. Keep being awesome.
I'm crying. No. That was so kind.
Yeah. What a good comment.
Yes. That was like great for our first like public comment too.
And not a hate comment.
Yes. Not yet.
We will definitely address the nonprofit things.
I think nonprofit, like navigating the world, I think a baby tidbit that I think should be used for perspective taking is that Emily grew up in the nonprofit world because of her mom. And so she knew a lot of people as a child, and people kind of have seen her grow up. And so we had an in that was easier than I think the average person, just because you had already had relationships with people in that space. Yeah. I think we've made friends since then, but I think if I was just starting out and I was 21 and I was like, oh, look at them, feeling bad about myself.
I definitely think volunteering is a great place to start.
Yeah,
it gets
that's how you meet everybody.
You meet a lot of the staff, but we can definitely talk more about that. I think that's a whole episode.
Yeah, and I would not want to do it like off the top of our heads either. I would want to like do some research and give like good information.
I think the common thread through that comment and the way that we would answer most of the questions from that is like community. And it brings me back,
like people.
It brings me back to like what we had talked about with connection.
Yeah.
That it continues, the community that you are around is instrumental to staying regulated, staying grounded, and just like being able to focus on your mental health.
Yeah. I'm just like thinking about the community piece. So for me, when I moved to Florida from Ohio, all of my friends, my family, everybody I knew lived in Ohio. I grew up there, and like that's where family was. And I only ended up in Florida because of the match. For psychology doctoral programs, you have to go and do an internship for a year. And so when I moved, it was in the middle of COVID and I knew nobody. I ended up rooming with one of the other people in the program, but I had never met her until we were moving in. I think we had done a phone call, maybe a FaceTime, unclear. And so when I first moved, I was like, I need to make friends. But the whole world was shut down, so you couldn't go anywhere. This is an area that I think has always been really important to me, is how do we build community? But I think my definition of community has changed a lot since then.
I think a lot of people's definition of community changed. I think COVID is kind of the inciting factor for most people to reevaluate what community means. But I also think community changes as we get older and we better understand ourselves. Like we have a better idea of what we want, what we don't want.
For sure.
I think it's the same lesson you're supposed to be learning in dating. Is dating is not like I pick you and I go on 2 dates and you're the person I want to be with for forever. Sometimes it works out like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is supposed to be figuring out like what feels like you, what doesn't feel like you, what are spaces that are bringing out the best version of you, and what are spaces that aren't.
So what is the relationship between like knowing yourself and building a good community?
I think like there are two processes that run parallel to each other and interconnect. I think they weave in and out.
Like a braid.
Yeah, like DNA.
Okay, a helix.
Yeah. There are times where in order for you to be able to walk into spaces and know how you want to show up, you have to go do the internal work. And I think there's some things that you don't know until you go out and try and interact with people, that in order for you to, I think, really build strong community, you have to have a decent understanding of yourself, or at least the skills to have a good understanding of yourself.
And what do you need to know about yourself?
I think values are a good place to start. We love a values card sort in this house. I love a
values sort.
I think there are multiple facets that make up people's identities. Like I think we often think about identities as the environments we show up in. So like there's a work identity and a social identity, and like who I am when I'm by myself, and who I am if I have a religious or a faith-based space to go into. Who am I when I show up with my family of origin compared to like my chosen family? There's a lot of different, I think we use environment to ground our identities, but I think our identities are far more fluid than people give them credit for.
Yeah, this is actually something that I struggled with a lot as like a teenager and young adult. I guess I'm not a young adult anymore, so that's devastating.
But
But
welcome.
I'll just breeze over that point.
You're just an adult now.
That's really sad. I don't want to do that, but like rejected. Actually, no.
It's a grieving
I'll
process.
start at 35, like then I'll be an adult. So as a young adult, this is the thing that I've always struggled with because I have always wanted friends that I could do everything with. Like I would literally call them everything friends. Growing up as like biracial and being Christian, like evangelical Christian, which like that's a whole other can of worms, but also like being in public school and then having Black family and white family. And I actually lived in a different community than I went to school in for like a lot of elementary and middle school. And so I was constantly having to code switch. Like that's kind of what I thought about when you started talking about the environment dependent identity. It's like code switching or masking of like, okay, who do I need to be in this space is like very easy. And I think it's a very kind of entry level understanding of self. It makes me think of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. If you haven't seen that, I love that amazing show. Watch, where the main character is constantly kind of reinventing herself and trying to figure out who she is. And I think for me, when I had to spend all this time with myself because I didn't know anybody, I was like, all right, like we need to figure this out because it's too much work. I felt like I was always having to remember who I was supposed to be instead of just existing.
I think a lot of people, when the lockdown ended and they had this like significant amount of time to hopefully reflect upon themselves and how they show up, there was this like big disconnect of you were expected to go re-enter into those spaces that like the old version of you left.
Yeah.
And a new version of you was walking into. And I don't know if a lot of people knew how to navigate that disconnect when they went back to what life was like before this big transitional period.
Yeah, I think it was like weird to happen on such a large scale, like across the world. I know so many people that discovered their sexuality during that time or changed their career during that time or got a divorce or found a partner or whatever. There was like so much, and I think it's because we had the space to think about it, and like that was kind of it. And like there was also like the yearning part of that time where like you didn't actually have the ability to do the things that maybe you wanted to, but you got to think about it and be like, oh, when this is over, like I want to start making bread or, you know, whatever it may be. And so people got to like dream a little bit, which I feel like we don't get as much time for anymore.
Well, what did community building look like for you as you entered into a state that none of your family was really close by or accessible?
It was really hard. I remember I like had my roommate, so I got to know her pretty well and like we talked. And but when I first started, I was in an office with the supervisors and then there was like an administrative assistant and then it was me and my roommate. So when I went to work, like I already knew her. Work didn't feel like a great option for building relationships because I knew if things went wrong or it didn't work out, that was going to have negative consequences. So I was afraid to befriend my coworkers. And then there was the power differential. So I don't remember how far into the process this actually happened, but I got on Bumble BFF. I heard about Bumble BFF and I was like, okay, let me try it. And I remember swiping and talking to some people. I think I met one person in real life and maybe two. I think I met this one girl and we went to brunch with somebody else that she had met on Bumble BFF, and then I met another person and we hung out a couple times. But when I was on Bumble BFF, I saw this girl, and I think this was so cool, I really wish more people did this, who had made a Facebook group for millennials in Palm Beach County. And her profile was like, I have a Facebook group for this, like if you're looking for friends, like you should join the group. And she just like managed it that way. And so I actually joined that Facebook group and they did events. And that's how I started to meet people. Now, these were not my friends for life. I mean, as you know, like I'm still friends with them on like social media and that kind of thing. And I don't really talk to them, but my like urge for community, or I guess my desire for community is a better word. So like I went to a beach picnic one time and like I went to an art museum. I went to like rooftop yoga, like just like random stuff that like is not really my interest, but I think I was like, I wanted to know people and be around people so badly that I was willing to like try new things. But I think that period of time actually taught me way more about myself than it did bring me like friends.
I think that's like the interconnected piece of it, is sometimes building community is finding out what you don't like, but you learn more about yourself that the next time you go and move or kind of try and figure out your friend situation or community situation, you walk in with a better understanding of you, which I think helps you weed through people who you know off the bat aren't going to be a good fit.
Yeah. I also had like this issue where if I hung out with somebody like twice, I'd be like, oh, we're friends. Like I didn't really have a gauge for like how close I was to people. I've always been like a person that people liked generally. So there was a lot of people that I was like acquaintances with. And so I made up this like arbitrary rule during that time that I had to hang out with people 3 times one-on-one before I could call them a friend. And I think that was like actually really helpful in terms of community building, because I had to ask myself, like, do I want to hang out with this person again? Like, did I have a good time? Like, do I enjoy that? And so like my sense of self was able to kind of say, like, how do I feel after spending time with this person? Did they make me feel uncomfortable, or did they make me feel like I was like carefree? And did it feel like a vacation? Did I have fun? Do I want to see them in other contexts? And so I think that kind of built my gauge for like what I like in a person, and that helped kind of set the groundwork. So when I met my wife, I had already kind of like worked through some of the friend things on what I wanted and what I didn't want out of relationships. And it was a lot easier to like welcome you in to my life because you checked the boxes of like what was important to me.
I passed the test.
Yeah. Well, not a test, but like kind of like there were like criteria and like how I wanted to feel around a person.
Yeah. When Essence is ready, she will share Boundary House with you all.
Oh, I mean, I could. Well, I've recorded it, but it was like for our friends. So yeah, that would be a cute.
It is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So we will educate the people
at some point. Yeah.
How did we build community when you and I decided to move out of maybe the bubble of Palm Beach County and integrate into an environment where I already had an existing community in some ways? Like, what became important to you?
So I think this one's kind of hard because we, like Palm Beach County, when we were there, like when we finally got together and all of that, and our friends had moved on to other things and you were on postdoc, like we were each other's support system.
Yeah. People weren't doing life with us.
Like we were each other's community. And I think that's important. I think it was an important phase for us as individuals and for like our little family and Monty and everything. But when we came to Sarasota, it had been like, what, a year and a half of us being each other's only like friends. And when we moved here too, we moved in with your family. At that point, I had gone on some vacation, celebrated holidays. I knew them. Not super well yet, I guess. I knew them, but I wasn't feeling like, oh, I'm comfy in this group. But I kind of knew that it would get there. But I remember talking to you and being like, Emily, we need friends. And you were like, it'll come. It's natural. I was like, shut up. Like, no, like, it's not going to just come to us by sitting at your parents' house. Like, it's not happening. And it kind of did.
I think there's, especially in going back to what Gail had commented on, in a state where you are watching people actively vote your rights away, I think there is a big intimidation factor of, am I going to feel people who look like me and feel like me? Like, is that a possibility, or like a realistic worry? Is everybody leaving? Am I coming into this space as everyone else has decided that it's unsafe to be here? And I think that goes back to the individual work of understanding yourself, your identity. I think this is an instance where labels are incredibly helpful. That if you know how to label elements of your identity, it makes it easier to go search out and find people who also identify with that label.
Yeah, I think when we first moved here, I remember the very first time we like came, I think we might have gone straight to eat. Or maybe we went to your parents' house for like a second and then we went out to eat. So we go to this like barbecue place, and I am quite literally the only person that is not white. I think it was what, April or something like that. So like there's not even people here for vacation that are looking tan where I blended. I was the only person of color. And we walked in and I was like, do you notice? And Emily's like, what? And moving here, especially like kind of the part of Sarasota that we were in that is overwhelmingly white, it created more distress, I think, than it did like peace for me. That was like, I can't be around all these like old white people because I'm not afraid of them, but like I have fears about, we're already interracial, which is like a ding according to the bigots, and then we're gay, so like that's another one. And then like as I have continued to acquire marginalized identities, it's like it just made me feel even more lonely. But one of the shared values that we had early on was like our faith. Like we both grew up in church.
We ended up in a lot of spaces that did not feel like us, feel safe.
We like didn't even want to hold hands when we're praying.
Yeah.
Like it was very uncomfy.
Yeah.
But we knew, I think we both felt like we wanted that to be a part of our lives. We just didn't really know how it fit in. And so we were going to give it one last go. And we went into this church. It's called Harvest. And it was the craziest moment, I think, for me. I still get emo talking about that time. But maybe you can talk about kind of the first moments of walking through the doors and how the service started.
Yeah, I think it's become so ingrained as a part of our day-to-day. But the service had started then and has always started since. It was going on before we walked in the door, but they have been consistent with it since we've been going. Just clarity is kindness. And we want to be clear about who we love and support and accept, and like who is safe here and who is welcome without the expectation of change or the belief that you are doing anything wrong. And Dan always calls out the LGBTQ plus community by name because, as he says, they have been ostracized by name, rejected by name. And so I think that was a moment, I think, for the first time really that you and I had walked into a place of faith in any way that was like, oh, I know exactly what it is. I know I'm going to be safe here, and I know the people around here hold the exact same value that I do in this like particular instance.
Yeah. And I think another piece of that was one of the people, she's like our friend now, that was singing on stage was Black or of color. I guess she's mixed also, but like looked like me. And we had been here for, I mean, like what, 2 weeks or something like that at that time. And there was also that couple when we used to sit in our old seats, our unassigned assigned seats at church. That was an interracial couple that sat in front of us. And that was like, oh. And I feel like that feeling of safety allowed us to feel comfortable to go back and be more than people that just like sat in seats, but like actually wanted to like know the people that were in the room with us.
Yeah, I think that sense of safety made it comfortable to go approach people and start to build connections. And it wasn't like the other churches that we had walked into at other times in Palm Beach where we were like, cool, we're out. Like,
yeah, like let me sprint. Don't ask my name.
Like, yeah, like we went for us in our internal
journey that we were on.
Yeah, I mean, like almost our entire friend group exists from that one space, and I think that explicit message of safety is what made it safe to build community.
Absolutely.
And I think it made it safe for us to start building friendships without the expectation that we had to be fully understood
or we had to know how we felt. Like it was a space to be messy. And I think like that has been a really big part of community building. Yeah. But again, that wouldn't have been possible without safety. And I think kind of like full circling it, talking about like Mental Health Awareness Month and the importance of like what we do in this month and making it beyond just awareness is that like in order for people to feel safe to really like reflect or talk about who they are and what they're dealing with, safety is like minimum.
Yeah, well, I think in the current state of our world and how we talk about psychological safety and things like that, that safety cannot be implied at this point in time.
Unsafety is implied. Right. We assume that a space is not safe unless it is explicitly said.
But it is a privilege to walk into spaces and assume that it is psychologically, emotionally, and physically safe. That anyone who possesses a marginalized identity of any kind, you are walking into most spaces with the assumption that it is an unsafe space until proven otherwise. I think a good thing to reflect on in Mental Health Awareness Month and as we are getting ready to leave it, that what could be different about how we talk about mental health or like how we even address mental health if safety was implied and not something that had to be explicitly stated.
Well, and I think like safety becomes implied when it is explicitly stated over time, right? Like everybody's like, yeah, we've heard this before. And I think like when we're talking about like how do you go beyond awareness, well, awareness does not require a relationship. It does not require placemaking. It doesn't require you to actually do anything, to just like say a message. The sacrifice and like in building a strong foundation for a safe space and for a place where mental health can be taken seriously and responded to accordingly is that people have to feel safe enough to open it up.
Yeah, I think it is something that requires like us to again humanize one another and to see the value of connection. I think that is something that is getting lost more and more as people aren't seeing the value of connection.
Yeah, and I think honestly reflecting on my birthday and my own mental health and everything, like without the relationships that I've had, I don't know if I would be here. And I don't like put that lightly. I think connection saved my mental health. And that had nothing to do with a therapist and everything to do with people like thinking I was worth knowing and being a part of my life. And I think sometimes we get caught up in like all of the chaos, but it doesn't take that much. Just like be a good person, be a safe person, and like be willing to be vulnerable and name the hard thing. And that's where connection can grow. Yeah, so we will wrap up with our
weekly
report. We're back.
Yeah, we took a pause
because we had to work.
We had a session. Yeah, we got really caught up in our conversation.
Yeah, and then the hour like flew by, which is bizarre because the actual episode is only like 27 minutes this time.
That's crazy.
So we're getting better. We're getting more focused.
Yeah.
We are still working out tech things because we're new at this, and we got rid of our old podcast mics because they were terrible.
Garbage.
So we're using the mini mics.
We have better mics.
We have a camera that is like connected, but it's unclear. We're using it and the computer together,
We're
whatever.
Still
it doesn't even matter. Like people don't care.
I'm sure the audio is hitting.
Yeah, the audio should be crispy.
Okay. If you haven't listened to us before, go back and listen to all the other episodes.
Yeah, because we worked so hard to get it to this point.
But we do weekly report. The report is an acronym. It stands for what we're reading, what we're eating, what we're playing, obsessing over, recommending, and treating ourselves to. And when we had our friends over, they were all talking about how great they thought it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was inside.
I know.
So glad that you guys like this.
What are you reading?
What am I reading? I just finished a book and I forget what it was called. So you can go ahead while I look.
I have over the past week been reading a lot of instruction booklets on how to hook up propane to a grill, how to clean a grill, how to set up an inflatable pool.
Which we got that one from Sam's Club. It's so cute.
I've been reading a lot of manuals.
That sounds...
Hope you had a great party.
I had a great party. Yeah, but that's not good reading. I just finished a book on Friday called With Teeth by Kristen Arnett. It was recommended by some book talk person. I was underwhelmed. Like, it was fine. It was a fine book, but like it wasn't my favorite. And then I started a book yesterday. Oh wait, it says I finished it, but I did not finish it. Whatever. It's called If Something Happens to Me by Alex Finley. And so far, it's about podcasters.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Oh, my God.
You're reading too many.
I finished If Something Happens to Me.
Uh-huh.
So I read that book in like 2 days.
Okay.
And now I'm reading a new book. That's what happened. And the book I'm listening to, I'm audiobooking, is called This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. So within the past week, 3 books.
I had set a goal for Essence to read 30 books in the year.
Do you want to know what I'm at?
I would love to know what number you're at.
I'm at 14.
Hey,
so I am ahead by 2 books. That's because I keep doing all these home improvement projects and I can't watch TV, so I'm reading.
Eating.
Ooh. We've had some good food this week. Yeah. So Thursday, we went to this like hole in...
Shout out to Saffron Express.
Is that what it's called? Yes. Okay, in Tampa.
Saffron on Davis Island.
Yes. And
it's in a gas station.
Like a convenience store gas station situation. But the convenience store itself, I felt like sold like cool stuff.
Yeah, called it like an urban convenience store or something.
Yeah, but then we got Indian food because I love Indian food. It's like my like comfort. Yeah. But it was Indo-Chinese. So good. Like, and the sweet lady, I think she's the owner, I assumed. They've won some awards, and she was just the kindest person, and like it made the experience really nice. Like there we were dressed up to go see a show in a gas station, and she was like, "How is it?" Like, just excellent experience. Would highly recommend.
Yeah. Then Friday was your actual birthday. And we had mellow mushroom.
Yes.
An assortment of pizzas.
And pepperoni rolls. If you don't know what a pepperoni roll is, loser. No, I'm just kidding. It's funny because we usually record these during the day, and I think at the end of the day I'm like more unhinged because my meds have worn off, and so it probably sounds like a whole different version. Let us know in the comments.
The pepperoni rolls, pretzel bites, and then instead of a cake.
Yeah, I don't like cake. So I had a banana split bar.
A really good choice.
Yeah, so we've been having our share of banana splits as leftovers this week.
Yeah.
And a discovery from that, I guess this could go under my treating, but it's not going to, is that Tillamook, which we're kind of ice cream snobs in our house, but they have a really, really good strawberry ice cream.
It hits.
So that's been
excellent.
Awesome. And then talk about what you made for my party.
And then for your party, we had gotten a really good deal on a grill.
I mean, it was an okay deal.
It was a good deal.
A better deal would have been like $5.
Oh, yeah, that would have been
like exceptional. It would have been a sponsorship.
For your party, we made pasta salad. We cut up watermelon. I guess an important caveat for this is her birthday party was summer camp themed.
Yeah. I guess we didn't talk about it.
Camp Essence.
We had a Camp Essence, and there's pictures on my Instagram at Dr. Essence Rivers.
Oh, we had marinated steak, chicken, and some vegetables, and we did kebabs on the grill.
Yes, so good. Yeah, and then we had s'mores.
Yeah, the kebabs were excellent. That's like one of your favorite foods.
I just love a kebab.
I know you do.
I don't think I ever knew that I like said that I love a kebab to you.
On multiple occasions, the words have left your mouth. I love a kebab.
Should I make a shirt? Like, I feel like, is that my tagline? Practice my embroidery. If you see me out here with my I love a kebab shirt, mind your business.
And then we had s'mores.
Good day. So we've eaten a lot.
Yeah, it was a good eating week. Playing.
We've done a lot of play because of my party.
Yes.
That has continued. I think my favorite, well, I had a couple favorites. But one of the things that I really liked is we got a parachute, like one of those like, well, we thought it was going to be a parachute like the ones in gym class.
The giant ones. We probably should have looked up.
I mean, it literally said on the box 9 feet.
Yeah.
But I was a child. So like the difference between 9 feet and 100 feet makes, like, I have no... I don't have that skill set of like, I can understand my body in relation to other things, but I cannot predict measurements. So like 9 feet sounded good to me. Anyway, it was not as large as the ones in gym class.
Yeah. It's a good time.
But we sat there with our friends and played with the parachute and had like a ball, and we did that for a little bit. And then we played like Never Have I Ever with the parachute, kind of how it used to be like, if you are wearing a green shirt, find a new spot, and you like run under the parachute. So we did that, and I just thought that was like so fun, and we did it for so long. I was shocked.
Yeah.
We stood there for like an hour, and
it sparked like, some really good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm the baby in that group, right? But generally speaking, like 30 and up year olds in a backyard, like playing with a parachute, it was just like very wholesome.
I think my playing was watching our friends like at the party do tie-dye and like how excited everybody was to like tie-dye and how much fun people were having, and just like the joy that it brought out for everybody was just so fun for me.
Like we made friendship bracelets and people were cutesy.
Yeah.
I'm shocked you didn't say Pong.
I mean, that's also a good one, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think it was so cool to be in a room full of just like adults who were able to access the kid again.
We're
was
all
like
just
really
big
special.
Kids. Yeah.
Obsessing.
I
immediately know what mine is.
Oh, go.
6.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, after we had our delicious Indian meal, we wwent to the Straws Center in Tampa and we saw the musical 6, which is about the 6 ex-wives of Henry VIII. And it quickly became, I think, one of my favorite musicals.
Yeah, me too.
We have been listening to the soundtrack
nonstop.
Nonstop.
It was so good, like so feminist, so like
inclusive,
just like
and
vibey, sassy. Like there was a little bit of shade, kind of camp.
Yeah,
like it was just
excellent,
so good. So if you haven't seen it, you should.
Yes. That is also going to be my recommending. I'm obsessing and recommending.
Oh, amazing. Wait, so then I need to recommend.
You need to. Are you also obsessing?
I'm obsessing over 6.
Okay, then you need to recommend something.
What do I recommend? I recommend having birthday parties. Like,
yeah.
I like wanted a birthday party because I don't know, like I mean I had them as a kid, but like after what, like 16, it stops being like a big deal, and then you have like 18 and 21, but then people want to go like out to the clubs, and I don't want to do that.
Not to the club.
Yeah, no. Ask me like 10 years ago, I would have been in a club, but now that's just not. Yeah. That's not my vibe. And like having like my friends just in the house and like cooking and playing and like having fun and like I don't know, it was like wholesome. It wasn't like we had drinks and stuff, but like it wasn't a rager. And it was like the daytime, and it was just like a cool thing. And I feel like
nothing beats a 4 p.m. party.
Yeah, like 4 to 9. But like we just don't do that as much anymore. I feel like after COVID, people stopped like hanging out at houses, and like I really like that our friend group is willing to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So treating. Oh, we've definitely been treating ourselves to ice cream yet again. We actually made a lot of purchases during this time, so we've been treating ourselves a little too much, but it's things that we can enjoy now.
Yeah. It's treat yourself to a really good watermelon. It's watermelon season.
Yes, and the way to figure out if it's a good watermelon is like if it has a big yellow spot or is like dirty on the bottom, like you know you got a good one.
Yeah. I think treat yourself to something that makes you feel like a kid again.
I've been doing research on what was popular when I was between 12 and 16 and reflecting and trying to bring out my inner child. And I think just getting back in touch with the things that you liked as a kid is so nice. And you have adult money now, so it's even more fun.
Yeah. You got McDonald's money?
I do.
Hell yeah.
That's about all I got, but I do got McDonald's money.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good week.
Yeah, we had a good week. So hopefully next week is also a good week.
We're back recording regularly. We might not always post exactly on Monday. Monday is the aspiration. That's the goal. It's nice if we can get it, and we might not always get it on Monday, but thank you for listening.
Yeah, when we have busy weekends, like, we don't have time to record, so we try to make it work.
Thank you guys for being consistent.
Thank you for being a current and future fan.
Thank you. And thanks for talking shop with us.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Bye!